So my name's Daniel Jenkins. I'm head of client services here at WAGADA Digital. I've been here for coming up 4 years, I think. And I look after a team of strategists and sort of account leads, people who manage, oversee, and project manage internally and externally digital marketing campaigns for our clients. I live in Evesham, just north of the Cotswolds. I look after our West of England office here in Cheltenham. WAGADA Digital, we're a digital agency, and we've got two offices. One is in St Albans in Hertfordshire, which is where we hail, having been around now for about 10 years. And I look after our second office with a growing team here in the Cheltenham area. I'm going to hand you over very quickly to Bex, who's going to introduce herself. So Bex or Rebecca.
Yeah, definitely Bex. Morning all. So I'm Digital Transformation Manager here at WAGADA. I've been with the company about 18 months now. It's gone really quickly. But I work with our clients that are looking to adopt HubSpot within their businesses to make sure that they're making the most out of it. And I'll be doing the run through with you a bit later on and talking you through some of the practical measures that you can use based off of the back of the tactics that Dan's going to talk about.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bex. So that's Bex. And as we say, it's not all about us. We are part of a fantastic team of digital marketers that is going from strength to strength and growing. We cover a number of core areas. We have a background and a history in technical SEO, and search engine optimization is one of our core services. However, we're a strategic-led digital agency. So we look at the full 360-degree kind of digital strategy for brands and develop marketing tactics and actions that line up with the overarching business goals and objectives of our clients. As HubSpot partners as well, we do have a core specialism in sales and marketing alignment, CRM systems and integration, and marketing automation as well, which again we'll come on to. So that's us. That's WAGADA Digital. So a sales focus versus a customer focus. What's the difference? It's a really, really interesting question, because you tend to find that some businesses might sway more one way than the other. So they might have a very, very heavy sales focus, or they might have a very, very heavy marketing focus. And the truth is that if you push it too much down any one of those two directions, it comes at the detriment of the other. And actually, it's about the balance. And we're going to be talking to you today about that sweet spot right in the middle, where you've got that sales and marketing alignment. So market orientation can be said to focus entirely on satisfying your customers' wants and needs. And sales orientation focuses solely on making the best products and services and selling them with more aggressive kind of sales tactics. So what does that mean? Well, broadly speaking, for me, marketing is about creating customer value. It's about creating customer value at a profit, okay? Because it's no good if it's at a loss. So marketing still needs to generate a return on investment. It needs to make you a profit, but ultimately it's about generating customer value, customer satisfaction. If you focus too much on the end game, on the sales, on the revenue generation, you completely lose sight of that whole customer value piece. You've got your eyes on the pound signs and not on keeping your customers happy. I often think about where that marketing crossover even comes with products and things. And something that I've noticed really interestingly over the last few years is that the quality of packaging and the way that packaging is processed for certain products lines up much, much better with a brand and what it's about. You know, if you buy an Apple iPhone, it'll make sure it's got beautiful packaging. And I bought an Amazon product once. I think it was a speaker, like an Echo or something. And even the way that you opened it from the box felt a little bit premium. And all these are little tactics. Are they sales tactics or are they marketing tactics? Either way, they're employing customer satisfaction. They're generating customer satisfaction, and they're doing it at a profit. So I'm going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn. LinkedIn did a piece of research about when sales and marketing really work together. And there's a lovely analogy of that classic power couple, okay? For any of the literature fans amongst us might think about Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. You know, would Macbeth have done the things he did? I shouldn't even mention Macbeth. I'm not supposed to say it in the theatre, but I'm in an office, so that's okay. It's supposed to be bad luck. But Lady Macbeth, and you know, without if they're greater than the sum of their parts. If there was only one of them, would the outcome have been the same, or did one influence the other? And LinkedIn explains it very, very clearly, where it looks about what these pairings have in common. So separately, their impact is impressive, but together it becomes unstoppable. Think about Barack and Michelle Obama, Marie and Pierre Curie, Bill and Melinda Gates. You know, these are broad examples, but the list goes on. The Beckhams, whoever your favorite power couple is, let me know. But the truth is that it's about finding that balance. And often, and this came from a piece of research, they found that businesses were 67% better at closing deals when they aligned sales and marketing. And that's really, really important. I had a prospective client, come to me once and say, we do loads of stuff on LinkedIn. And it's really active, so it's really good, so that's not a problem for us. But what we need to do is we need growth, and we need to meet these numbers, and blah, blah, blah. And I took a step back and said, okay, let's take a look at your LinkedIn. Let's sort of see what's happening. Let's see what's going on there. And he was right. They were really active on LinkedIn. They had a lot of followers. He had this particular individual that was a key stakeholder at the brand, also had a lot of connections on LinkedIn. So the reach was good. But then when we went through the feed and looked at what was going out, every single post had 1 like, 2 likes, maybe 3 if you were lucky, no comments, no thread, no real engagement. But they were posting about 3 times a week. I've got other clients where I'd love it if individuals and stakeholders were also posting kind of 3 times a week, because obviously that whole volume piece is key. But the engagement was almost completely non-existent. But the reason for that was because every single message was sales driven. So every single piece of messaging that was going out was, did you know that we do this? Did you know that we achieved this? As a business, how exciting is it that we can do this? And here's proof of how we achieved this for a client. And here's a lovely stat and a percentage like this. And people completely switch off to that. However, when you use those kind of messaging sparingly and put it in the right place at the right time as part of a workflow and a funnel within something like HubSpot, which we'll come on and talk about, that can be really, really key. But in the bits in between, you have to make sure that your content, your collateral, whether it's email marketing, LinkedIn messaging, is giving customer value. You know, is it of something that is of engagement to the customers, so that they don't feel like they're being sold at and to, because otherwise they'll just switch off. 58% of brands reported an improvement in customer retention. I'm going to be talking to you about the post-sale piece. So it's not just pre-sale. All of this is not just from the point of client engagement or customer engagement through to the sale. I'm working with a lot of brands at the moment where a lot of the marketing efforts is coming from the point at which the customer has purchased and everything that comes afterwards. Because you cannot lose sight of the goal of increasing lifetime value, customer loyalty, retention, all that wonderful stuff that as businesses and SMEs, whether we're a sole trader or a small SME or a corporate, we can often lose sight of that whole period post-sale. Now, if you get that right through automations, that it doesn't take up too much of your headspace, it doesn't take up too much of your time, but you engage and re-engage customers, then brands notice a boost in financial performance, because it all feeds in. Do you know who does this wonderfully? Is Domino's Pizza. You order a Domino's Pizza, you've converted, you've paid. Let's say you got a family meal deal. Let's say it cost you 25, 30 quid, you're done. That business has generated 25 or 30 pounds from you, but what happens then? You get a pizza tracker. You get a little pipeline. It's communicating to the customer, thank you for your order. Your order is now being processed. This is now happening. Guess what? It's going to be at your door. Our delivery guys are ready. You know, the moped's on the road. Now, all that stuff has come post-sale, and not a single individual at Domino's has done anything more than pull a trigger to go, oh, I've done this bit now. Oh, I've done this bit now. But the customer is getting this really, really valuable content post-sale. HubSpot can enable you to do that with workflows. But the point is, I get my pizza and I'm really happy because I've had a fantastic experience. And then On the, you know, payday the next month, maybe I'll go and buy a pizza again. And then finally, increase productivity. So this is what I'm talking about. I've got another client where I'm using real life examples here because it's just to get us thinking a certain way. It's a certain mindset, where the piece of feedback was, I love this, my phone's ringing less and I couldn't be happier. Now, I've got other clients who will be begging me for their phone to ring more and more and more. And the marketing work that we're doing is to get their phone ringing more and more and more. But what this client meant is that my customers are happy because they don't need anything from me because of the automated workflow. So what he meant wasn't we're generating less business. What he meant was, I'm finding that I'm answering my clients' questions. I'm one step ahead of the game. I'm giving them content. And it's because I've got all these triggers set up in workflows so that 2 days after purchasing, the customer gets this. A week after that happens, the customer gets this. When the customer gets an action, they're getting this email. And so he found that it had taken out, it saved a huge amount of his time because a lot of stuff that he was doing manually was automated. So that marketing and sales alignment can result in a massive boost to overall productivity. So just finally on that, what does it also look like in terms of the outbound side of things? A clearer understanding of the customer. In order to get your marketing and sales aligned, in HubSpot especially, but in any manner, you need to understand your customer. So what do I mean by that? You need to do customer segmentation. You need to not think of the broad marketplace and going, oh, we're sending all this messaging out there, we're sending all that marketing collateral out there. Start to build your customer profiles. And I'll go into a bit more detail in how to do that. Engage with customer feedback. You know, you can even send out automated research questionnaires and pieces, and you know, think about things like SurveyMonkey. Really look at that customer perception of your brand and not just what you think about your brand and what it is that you're doing. Take a look at the whole customer perception piece to better improve the customer experience and the marketing work that you're producing for that customer. And brands became much better at collecting feedback from customers as well. So HubSpot workflows. It all begins with a funnel. I bang a drum a little bit with funnels because I always utilize them, and they're classic models, and some of these have been around since the dawn of marketing almost, or not, that's not true, but the dawn of segmentation and marketing and really getting your message to the right person at the right time. But we really need to start thinking this way when we look at funnels and aligning sales and marketing. So the first thing that I want to reference very quickly is the AIDA model. I'm going to talk you through 3. Okay, and the truth is that you might use a combination of 1 or 2, but you might put together a 1-page marketing plan, and you might just pick one of these models and go, right, I'm going to put together a mini marketing plan for marketing and sales alignment, and I'm going to use this. One is the AIDA model. This is an advertising model. Some of you may have heard of it or know of it or even use it, and this might just reinforce it for you. Others might be seeing this for the first time. But broadly speaking, it's about the customer process of awareness, interest, desire, and action. So the awareness phase, that first stage, is an awareness of a problem or a need. Then we start to generate an interest in the marketplace in terms of what's out there, what are the solutions? Let's take a look at this brand. Then we develop a desire, which is the need to purchase, the desire for that product or service. And then finally, we take an action, okay? And that action can be to actually convert or to make an inquiry. For some businesses, and when it comes to looking at HubSpot integration, this process might be a very long process. It could be 6 months or a year. It could be 2 years. I work with brands where sometimes the lead time from awareness to action is about a 2-year process. For others, it might be 2 hours. Okay, to give you an idea of 2 completely separate ends of the funnel, a long lead time might be a property purchase. So maybe, and to give you a real life example, I live in a 3-bed property, wife and 1 child. Okay, we live in a 3-bed semi-detached property. Maybe my thinking will start to go, I'm aware there's a bit of a problem or a need here. You know, if the family's going to grow, do we feel that actually we're ready to upsize? Do we want to do X, Y, Z? That's my awareness kind of stage. And then an awareness of what's out there in the marketplace, what's the property price, what can I get for my money, that sort of thing. Then maybe I start to generate an interest. Okay, I'm looking at this kind of property in this sort of area, and I'm going to do my research. And so I'm going to look at all the local estate agents, what's on the market with Reed Rains, that sort of thing. Then I'm going to generate a desire when I see what's out there and that I want. And then I'm going to take an action, which might be to actually, put my property on the market, put an offer in on another property, whatever. The point is, though, that could take a 6-month period, a 12-month period, an 18-month period. On the flip side, if it's a Friday night and I'm holding a glass of wine and I spill it on the sofa, I might have an awareness of a problem straight away. I've just spilt wine over my sofa. I might grab a cloth and try and scrub it clean, and I can't do that. So I start to go online. I generate an interest in what's out there, products to remove white wine, red wine from sofa or whatever. And then maybe I get a desire because I see something that's got a 5-star review on Amazon, and I take an action and I purchase it. And that process might have taken 20 minutes. But why this is so important is to really think about those lead times and how automation is gonna play into that. Likewise, I develop a lot of strategies with this sort of thing in mind. And again, this is more for you to digest afterwards, because you can take a look at the deck. But this is the RACE framework, where you reach who it is that you're trying. So first of all, you plan, you put a strategy together. Then you reach your target demographic through marketing communications. Then you generate an action. Now that's key at buyer stage. That's when your customer's going to take that decision-making piece. Then you generate the conversion. But why I love this model is it puts far more emphasis on the post-sale piece. So a lot of what you could do with your marketing and sales alignment could be the engagement, the long-term re-engagement piece. So finally on this, because it's so important, because in a way it brings these two together, is the HubSpot flywheel. Okay, so this is a HubSpot model. So this is the concept of a spinning wheel. It's cyclical. So it's not a funnel with a beginning and an end. It's constantly rotating. And in the middle, at the heart of it all, is business growth. And they talk about this middle sphere of attract, engage, delight. So attracting is pulling people in, getting people involved with your brand. Engaging is when you then engage heavily with them through marketing and sales communication. And the delight piece is that long-term customer value, customer satisfaction piece. But then if you follow that on the outside, it's about looking at who these people are, these individuals or businesses, because they start off as strangers. They've got no interaction and no engagement with your brand. But when you engage with them, they become prospects, they become leads. Eventually, when you get it right, they become customers. But it doesn't stop there, because through the constant post-sale piece, they can become really good promoters, brand ambassadors. And what that then does is feeds that flywheel again, and it introduces new strangers to your business. And you can become so much more effective at this through workflows and automation, which Bex is going to give you a live demo of in the second half. So what does HubSpot say? Well, it says the amount of energy or momentum that your flywheel contains depends on 3 things. 1 is how fast you spin it. 2 is how much friction there is, and 3 is how big it is. So if it stops, what it's saying is if you're not very good at the middle bit, if you don't engage and give people value and send them their emails at the right time and that sort of thing, it's going to stunt your flywheel, and you'll have customer dissatisfaction, and then it'll stop the funnel. The whole point is that you have to consider every stage of that. So what does that goal look like? Well, from a marketing perspective, it's unlikely that people will buy from you instantly. So you need to warm up your customers and start to build a relationship. The maintaining of the relationship, that is the job of both marketing and sales. So think of it that way. Are we maintaining a relationship through both marketing and sales, not just one? But then finally, is sales developing that relationship and actually turning it into tangible business. Okay. Now, this is where you have to get the two working together, because the accountability, it's no good just turning to the marketing team going, well, hang on a minute, we didn't turn our revenue profit, blah, 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 this year that we were targeting. But marketing might go, well, hang on a minute, I produced all this collateral, I got you a load more reach, we generated a huge amount of engagement across all our channels. The pipeline was filled with 80 fresh leads for 2021, but we only converted 10%. And then you go, well, actually, okay, that's when we need to look at the sales piece. Likewise, if sales are going, look, we've got a massive conversion rate here, but the marketing work is not bringing enough leads into the funnel, then you can look at the marketing arm. And the truth is that your sales arm might be 10 people and your marketing arm might be 10, or it might be as simple as 1 and 1. You might have a marketing manager that's all encompassing and a sales manager that's all encompassing, because it depends on the size of your business. But the point is they have to work in synergy. Otherwise, you won't generate the results that you desire. So how can we do that? Let's talk a little bit about account-based marketing, because this is key. Until now, well, no, that's not true. Let me take a step back. In the 50s and sort of, you know, mid 20th century and things, there was this kind of world of sort of mass marketing, mass advertising. It was the concept that big bucks, sorry, sometimes the light comes on and off. It's a sensor, but this is where tech is not great. I've got a sensor, so that if I move, sometimes it triggers the light, and if I'm still for too long, it goes off. There was a whole period of kind of mass marketing and advertising. And it was about money talks. So who's got the biggest bucks? Who can spend big in areas to just make sure that we've got advertising space, real estate? It can happen now. Let's make sure we've got all those Google ads, we've got our social media advertising, and push a load of budget behind it. A separate approach would be to utilize a tool like HubSpot to be far more specific and get a marketing message out to specific accounts, individuals, or industry verticals. So it's about getting a targeted message at a particular individual in a certain company in the right vertical. Crudely speaking, it's the message or the perception of one-to-one rather than one-to-many. So it's making sure that that individual on the end of the one-to-one is getting the right message at the right time versus the right-hand side. I'm going to quickly tell you a real-life working example of automation at its finest that I've seen in the last week. So it's not even in this deck because it's just happened, but it'll help explain this. LinkedIn often run various marketing campaigns. I am on LinkedIn as an employee of WAGADA Digital. I get an email from LinkedIn. I'm a very active member on LinkedIn. They know all this. Their algorithm tells LinkedIn that I use LinkedIn a lot. I post, I engage, and I'm involved with the business account. So LinkedIn target me and they say, get £400 of free advertising spend. That was the message I had. Okay, get £400 free advertising revenue. Obviously, there's a little asterisk, which is always more. So I contact a member of the team and say, look, this has happened. I'm going to share with you my login. You can jump into my LinkedIn account. This particular person looks after areas of paid media. Can you take a look at this deal and see what we can do, because we can run a campaign? So then he looks at the small print and comes back and says, Dan, we need to spend £400 to get £400. So the deal is we spend 400, we get 400. So it's going to give us £400 worth of credit, free advertising money, but I've got to pay LinkedIn £400 to advertise first. So I take a look, is there room in the budget? Yeah, do you know what, let's do it. We can run a short campaign on this. Brilliant, let's do that, at least we'll get the credit, and then we can think about what campaign we want to run that on. So we run the campaign. It lasts a week, we spend £400. The campaign ceases, and I get the credit in the account straight away. Brilliant. But then what happens? My colleague, who LinkedIn knows is a colleague of mine and an employee of WAGADA Digital, happens to be our managing director, gets an automated deal from LinkedIn, get £400 free advertising credit. And it's exactly the same deal. Now, why has he had that at that time? Because LinkedIn's got this fantastic buy-in signal where it's gone, oh, well, hang on a minute, this person is a member of the business, has spent on LinkedIn, has engaged, has done this. So now what we're going to do, we're going to target another member of that business because we can get them spending more, right? Now, why I'm using that as an example is because that is very different to a mass marketing message to a load of businesses or a load of business owners saying, get £400 free advertising credit. Through automation, LinkedIn has given the right message to the right person at the right time to generate an action. Because then what happened? Well, my colleague, Nick, our managing director, forwarded the email and said, oh, look, I've just had this, and then we're talking about it. But obviously, as marketers, we're going away going, oh, look, they're just trying to hook us in, and before you know it, we'll do that on your account, and then Cheryl, the CEO, will get a message to say, get £400 free advertising credit. And then it's like, we'll have had you know, several £100s of credit, but we might spend £1.5 grand to get there. And then who's the winner? Because LinkedIn is generating all this advertising revenue. But the point is all of that, nobody at LinkedIn has really had to lift a finger to make that happen. That is a series of well-timed automated sales messages. Now, in that example, it's going to multiple stakeholders, but another example could have been that through the actions that I had taken, LinkedIn could have gone a bit further with me. Maybe it comes back and says, in the month, and maybe it will, I don't know, maybe next month I'll get a message that says get £800 free advertising revenue, but guess what, I've got to spend 800, you know. Deliveroo, Uber Eats, these brands, they all do the same thing. We miss you, here's 10% off. That's not a mass marketing message, that is a well-timed email to generate engagement. It's not always sales, it's marketing collateral. So it's just to really think about it as a consumer and a customer when we're on the other end, because then we can identify these touch points and these moments, and we can go, let's do that as a business, let's do that as a brand, but we're going to do it a bit differently. If you've got any questions as we go, by the way, don't hesitate to pop them in the chat. We're about halfway through this section. We're going to take a break shortly, just over halfway. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to have a live HubSpot demo where Bex is going to talk about some of the theory that I've kind of introduced to you, but how that can be actioned on HubSpot. So the proof is in the pudding with all of this, and you have to start off with ensuring that you've developed shared goals. So there have to be goals set out. What is it that you want to achieve? What are my business objectives? And then within that, we're going to set those marketing objectives, and then we're going to differentiate and interlink. So which objectives are sales objectives and which objectives are our marketing objectives. Take a look at this article. You'll have the link when you get the slides, but it's how 8 brands mastered marketing and sales alignment, because what you can see within there is some real life case studies, because again, case studies I think are the best way to generate those ideas and those thoughts about how to actually align the two, and what that actually looks like. So a couple of examples now, real life again examples, because I just think it really helps bring it all to life. The VP of Sales at Outreach, a brand, again linked through to from the deck, said you need to decide not to have a blame game mindset or culture. When pipeline is viewed as a shared challenge, then it becomes easier to talk about what needs to be done to improve the situation. Sales and marketing is a complex relationship, and assigning blame narrows your ability to create needle-moving solutions. There's nothing worse than if your sales department, I've worked with people in other spheres, not here, where they're part of large companies and they say, do you know what, the sales team, they've got no time for marketing. They just think with the colouring in department. And it just makes you want to tear your hair out, because you go, the force, if you actually work together, can be so much more effective. Another nice example is a brand called Super Office, and what they did was they asked their sales reps to become more active on social media. A number of brands are still very late, even now, to adopt LinkedIn and social media channels as key tools for the sales team. So often LinkedIn will fall very heavily to the marketing team. What company content are we putting out there? If you put more onus and responsibility, and accountability on members of the sales team to become significantly more active on LinkedIn, that can harness really positive results. Now, in order to empower the sales team to be effective at that, you might need to get them working more heavily with the marketing department. The marketing department could be producing white papers, documentation, really good blog content. I don't just mean 500-word regular. I'm talking about really nice 1,000, 1,500 word pieces of really strong pillar content that the sales team can be pushing out across these channels. And what results did Super Office see? They got an increase in business leads by 168%, an increase in social media visits to the website by 61%, and ultimately a business revenue increase of 10% within the first 12 months. Why I love this case study is that I've broken down those results by department. So the increase in business leads by 168%, that should be a shared goal for marketing and sales. That's the overarching objective. Let's make sure that marketing and sales are going to work together cohesively to achieve that goal. Synergy. Then a marketing objective might be to increase in social media visits to Super Office's website by 61%. And then from a marketing perspective, are we giving them all this wonderful content on the website to delight and attract and engage? Maybe there's then email automation that's going out to these people that visited the website. Maybe they've signed up to a newsletter. And then ultimately the sales objective is, are we closing deals? Are the sales team generating that business revenue increase of 10% within the first 12 months? What does this come back to? Empower your sales team. I love that word, empowerment. Make sure your sales team feel fully empowered to have a strong individual identity through marketing communications, whether that be across LinkedIn and social media, or even automated email communications from HubSpot that are signed off from an individual, from a key salesperson or a sales lead at the business with a lovely signature at the bottom, so that people feel that they're getting a really personal experience, even if it's coming from an automated email workflow. Just one more on this. David Stout, somebody at Blue Leads. Our ability to maintain alignment between marketing and sales comes down to 3 elements: process, communication, and shared ecosystems. So again, it's the same fundamental point about collaborative work to create processes that they share and refine together. So marketing then help them to create sales content, but the sales team refined them into assets over time and shared the results. So salespeople often have got all the ideas and the great ability to communicate. That's what they're good at. They can get on the phone and they can sell, or they can go face to face and they can sell. And they know the USPs of the business inside out. They can recite, or they should be able to recite off the back of their hand, why a brand should buy in, why a customer should buy into the brand. But sometimes they struggle to get that down into tangible assets. But that's where your marketing team should be able to support and reinforce. So what does that look like, and how can that feed into your HubSpot? Here are some really effective marketing tactics that can align very, very well with your sales effort. One is lead magnets. If you haven't heard that phrase, lead magnets, it's downloadable content, gateway content. But the point is, it attracts leads to your business. So for example, a white paper, a piece of research, a study, a guide, a checklist, and then it pulls people into the brand. A good example of where I did this in practice was I was working with a client. Their objective was to get people to sign up, small business owners, in and around London, within certain industries, to register for a training course. So the first piece of the funnel was a piece of social media advertising. We ran social media advertising campaigns to small business owners across Facebook, across London. The message, however, was not sign up for a course, not at all. We developed a very, very good 4-page downloadable guide, an asset. We put it on a landing page behind an email address gateway. And we ran a campaign targeting business owners to download this wonderful guide about their business. I forget the exact theme. We're going back a few months, but it was such an effective campaign. We then generated downloads of those assets at about £2 a time. So the overall cost was, we had reach, clicks, and traffic. But the target demographic were downloading that guide at a cost to the brand of about £2 a conversion. And we got a few hundred. But what that gave us was a few hundred email addresses and warm leads who were then engaged with what we had to offer next. So the end of the collateral talked about the course, the next step, what can come next. And the client suddenly had leads. So when we talk about account-based marketing, they had 400 or 500 or so email addresses, or I forget the exact number, but to be able to market directly to. Get a segmentation. Who are these people? What businesses are there? Maybe based on that, we can segment that down into 4 or 5 different industry types. So we've suddenly got 4 or 5 different industry types of small businesses across London who are in the market for the type of stuff I want to talk about. And then maybe we go down a route of automated email communications. Thank you for downloading this. Get 10% off when you register early bird discount before XYZ. How different that is to a mass marketing message, but it's an example of how a lead magnet can help to feed the funnel, to generate engagement, and it's customer value. That's the marketing piece. The marketing piece is also the email communication, but maybe the sales piece is when you then get talking to actually convert that person and turn them into a deal. content marketing. It doesn't always have to be gatewayed. You know, really good blogs, really good assets, really good insight, pieces that your sales team can be pushing out on LinkedIn posts and things as well. And of course, email marketing. Bex is going to be talking a lot now in the second half about those automated email workflows from HubSpot, and how that can really ensure that you're sending the right communications. And of course, bringing all of that together is the whole relationship building and prospect piece across social media, across LinkedIn and other channels as well. But with automation at the heart of all this, I want us to think about this, especially in the second half. All of this can be so heavily automated that you front load the work, that you do more work up front, so that you get it off the ground to do the work for you. So initially, you're going to be putting more work into your customer segmentation piece and your workflows and your processes. But then once you've done all of that, it's far, far more efficient. So the key is, just to conclude, to understanding the customer and the client. So I really suggest that you break that down so that it's not just about the broad target market. It's about what makes up that target demographic. So have a real think about your decision-making unit during the break. Who makes up that DMU, that decision-making unit of our customers? If you're not familiar with this sort of model, and it's amazing because sometimes we do this stuff instinctively and we go, well, we already know it, but sometimes just looking at it and going, but are we really putting pen to paper on that and really thinking about that is another thing. So the classic kind of decision-making unit, whether it's B2C or B2B, you might have a user, an influencer, a buyer, an initiator, a decider, and a gatekeeper. Think about what makes up these people within your decision-making unit, and who they are and what kind of message they're going to respond to. An example of this in a B2B context might be, let's say you sell a piece of software. So let's say you're a software vendor. You have a piece of software that's going to help a company with efficiency. Who's going to use that software? Well, the users of the team, maybe even the junior members of the team. The graduates, maybe they're using it even more than anybody else because they log and bill and so on and so forth. But they're not necessarily a key decision maker in terms of purchasing that piece of software. Who are the influencers? Well, maybe the influencers are the senior leadership team, management team, maybe directors. Who are the buyers? Maybe the buyers are actually just the directors and the chief financial officer. Maybe the initiator in the whole thing is at manager level, mid-level, where they're going, look, our efficiencies are so poor, we need a new tool, this is going to cost us £5,000 a year, but I really think we need it. Maybe they're the people that initiated the whole process. Who's the ultimate decider? Perhaps the initiator, once they've pitched internally, ceases to be able to make a decision, and the decider is at director level. And maybe the gatekeeper, there could be multiple gatekeepers. Maybe it's the chief financial officer who's monitoring the purse, is one of the gatekeepers. The point is there's so many different working examples for that, but you have to consider that in your marketing messaging. And then just to give you a flip side of that, on a very opposite end of the scale, is something as simple as a children's class, a children's activity class. Let's say you've got a 6-year-old and you want to send him or her to dance classes. Who's the user of those classes? Well, it's the child. But who's the influencer? Maybe it was the child, because the child said, I want to go to dance class. Maybe it was one of the parents, the mother or the father, who said, I really want our child to interact more with other people, and I really want her to engage in a Saturday activity. Who's the buyer? Well, it's the parents. It's not the child. Again, who's that initiator? Maybe it was the child, maybe it was the adult. Who's the decider? Maybe it's mum or dad. Maybe one parent has the final decision on that and the other one has to go along with it. Maybe it's a shared decision. Who's the gatekeeper in that situation? Maybe it's dad who says, do you know what, money's tight this month. Or maybe it's mum who goes, I don't really want her to do dance. I want her to do athletics, But the point I'm trying to make is that all these people could be getting messages at different times. I try not to have children's advertised TV on in the house because I hate the fact that the adverts are actually targeting the children. They're not targeting the adults. If you put something like Nickelodeon on, as opposed to the BBC, all those adverts are trying to hook in the child. They are genuinely targeting a 9 to 10-year-old or whatever. They're not targeting the parent. Then the child gets so excited that they go to the parent and they convince the parent that they need to buy this thing. But and then ultimately it's the parent that makes the decision. But that's an example of who you're targeting with what message. It's crude examples, but it gives you that idea of it in practice. And you really need to think about that for your marketing automation. And then you need to be able to organize your pipeline. So who are these people, these customers, these prospects? Are they a cold caller or are they a qualified lead? Who's the main stakeholder? Who do I need to be speaking with? Are we sending marketing messaging to the right person, or is our email open rate as low as 10 or 15% because we're not sending our collateral to the right people? And going back to that piece earlier, what's the anticipated lead time from inquiry to sale? Because it's no good getting it all out the door in a couple of weeks and sending all this marketing collateral. Maybe you need to really pace it so that they get one a month, one every couple of months. Maybe then after 6 months, if they haven't taken the action that you want, a trigger gets fired, which means that they send an email which says, oops, we haven't heard from you in a while. Do you still want this or not? And then if they take a positive action, maybe it goes in a whole new direction and they get a load of other new exciting marketing collateral. Again, all of this is automated. You've done all the initial work and then it becomes automated. So something I want you to have a little think about, either after this session or during the break, is to really jot down the stakeholders in that decision-making unit, that DMU. Feel free to pop it in the chat. It's always beneficial. If anybody feels confident to take the plunge, pop in the chat, either privately, anonymously to me, and I can use it as an example, but not talk about the brand. I often get a lot of questions sent privately, and I will either answer them separately or anonymously, because I understand that sometimes you don't necessarily want the ins and outs of your business's profit. But if anybody does want to take the plunge, pop in the chat if you know who those stakeholders are. A couple of key characteristics. What are their buying habits? What do they do outside of work? When's the best time to reach them? Maybe you don't send them an email at 3:30 on a Wednesday because you're confident they're doing the school run. And then have a little think about any marketing tactics that are utilized for any of those people in the DMU. And if there's a department that's more engaged, marketing or sales. As I say, if you have any contributions on these and you want to pop them in the chat, or even during the break, please go ahead and do that, because I'd love to shout out with a couple of examples, either just during or before the break or immediately after. And just to remind us of that, think who's the user, who's really using what we do, who's the buyer, who's the initiator. Brilliant. Okay, fab. So welcome back, everybody, and some who might be joining us just for the second half as well, for the demo, for the walkthrough. So really good to see you. And we've had a couple of questions and private bits and bobs come through on the chat sort of during the break about businesses and sort of sales and marketing automation. So we'll make sure that we get through those separately as well. But without further ado, what I'm now going to do is hand you over to Rebecca. So I will be monitoring the chat. I think Bex is going to share her screen, but I'm going to monitor the chat in the second half. So if you do have questions as we go, don't hesitate to pop them in. And as I say, Bex is now going to give you a much more live and interactive piece in terms of how we can put some of this sales and marketing work together, actually using HubSpot. So over to you, Bex.
Thanks, Dan. I have just been made aware in the break that my sound isn't brilliant. So if anyone's struggling, maybe just hands up and wave, and I'll come a bit closer to the microphone there. But yeah, let me just share my screen with you. I'm really jealous, Liz, of your cake for breakfast because I still haven't had anything yet. I'm a little bit sad, really. If I see you in the corner of my eye just eating cake, you'll see my face change a little bit. But hopefully everyone can see my screen now, and we should be seeing this this dashboard here. I know a lot of people in the room are already familiar with HubSpot. I know some people certainly have been along to our previous sessions on HubSpot as well. So thank you for coming back. Obviously, we did something right there. I want to focus today on the elements of HubSpot that bring the sales and marketing teams together and those particular features. So I'm not going to do a full overview of the platform itself, but for those of you that aren't familiar with HubSpot at all and kind of how it works and why it's a thing, I will just run through very briefly the interface and the types of features and things, what they call hubs, and so how that works. So when you sign up for HubSpot and when you come into your account, the interface looks the same regardless of what team you're on. So whether you're in marketing, you're in sales, or you're in the service and customer service team, you will always come into this initial first screen and the interface is always going to look the same. It's one thing that I really love about HubSpot. It's so intuitive. Basically, if you can work a website, you can work HubSpot. So really easy to navigate. Everything in your navigation bar is up here. And this will bring you into all the different sections of HubSpot. So initially, HubSpot was actually built as a CRM system. So it was initially built just to collect contacts and organize contacts for companies. And over about the last 10 years, it's actually developed into a much, much bigger beast. So it now encompasses 4 hubs. So you've got your CRM, but then you've also got your marketing hub, your sales hub, your service hub, and you've got a operations hub as well, which manages websites and things like that. So you can actually build your entire website on HubSpot as well. So as I say, you can navigate to all of those hubs from this top navigation bar up here. And then the other side over here is just your account details and your settings and things like that. So what I'm going to actually look at just in the first 10 minutes or so is those hubs that we will be talking about today with marketing and sales. The first thing I'm going to do is just bring you into the contact section. As I say, it's built around a CRM. So let's just have a look at what that looks like within the system, first of all. So if you drop down your contacts here, you'll see you get all of your options for the CRM part. So that's going to include all your contacts, all your companies, and then you've got target accounts as well. Now that's very much related to what Dan was speaking about with regards to account-based marketing. That is a very big section of HubSpot, and I'll touch on some of the elements within that today, but we will do a completely separate account-based marketing webinar at some point as well, because as I say, that's probably deserves its own time. But that's how you would get into your target accounts and your account-based marketing from the platform. So just going into the contact section here, we do suggest that if you're using HubSpot, you try and base everything around your contacts and not your companies, purely because really what you want to think about when you're interacting and when you're engaging with potential prospects is you want to deal with them on a one-to-one basis. You want to deal with them on that personal level. So we do suggest HubSpot's actually built to do everything around contacts. You can do it around companies if maybe you're if you're a bigger business and you're trying to target specific sizes of companies or specific industries, maybe companies would be more suitable. But as you can see, as you go into contacts here, this basically gives you a repository of everything, everyone that's in your CRM database. And this front view here will give you information that you might need right off the drop of a hat. So you can see things like phone number and email addresses and things. This front view is completely customizable as well. So depending on your business, you might want to see different information about your contacts from this page. And you can filter it and you can save your own views as well. So if you're in a sales team and maybe you're working on a particular territory or location, you could just filter out your own contacts in here so that you're just seeing that on this front screen. And you can see up the top here, I've actually got a couple of tabs where I've done that. I'm just going to pop into my contacts here, and then we'll drop into a card. So here you can see there's a list of my contacts up here with all that information about them. And if we pop into one of these contacts, this will give you a lot more information on what's been happening with them. So, as I said, HubSpot looks the same for everybody. And the great thing about it is once you've learned how to look at one kind of record card, they all look very, very similar. And you'll see that in a second when I go into companies as well. But basically, cards are all split into 3 sections. So on the left-hand side here, you'll have all your basic information about your contact. Again, completely customizable to what you want to see. And this covers all the contact information that you might want, where they are within their sales journey and their marketing journey with you. And then coming down, you can also configure it to show things like their website activity. Brian's been very, very active on our website. We should probably reach out to him a bit more. So all of that is there on the left-hand side. In the center of the card here, you've got the activity timeline. Now, this is a chronological timeline of every interaction that your company has had with this particular contact. So it brings in obviously emails and calls that your sales team might have made, but it also brings in their website activity as well. So that's really great if either marketing or sales are looking at a particular contact and they're trying to target somebody specifically to say, what have they been doing? What have they already seen? And what engagement have we already had with them? So that's all running down this center timeline here. And then here on the right hand side, we've got associated activities. So in contacts, that's always going to bring in the company that they're associated with. It also bring in any deals. So if the sales team are actively working with this contact and they're pulling them down that sales funnel, then that will all be here as well. And you've also got, this is really handy, the attachment section. So always good to add in anything that maybe the client sent you and you want to just add that in and make sure that you've got a record of it all in one place. So that's your basic contact records. Go back up here again and drop down on the CRM tab and just have a quick look at companies. I'm just going to move you guys over there because I can see you all. So when you come into the companies tab, you'll see again, this looks very, very familiar. As I said, it's almost exactly the same as contacts in terms of you can view whichever information you want to see on a company here, probably higher level than your contacts. So it will be things like your cities, probably industries and things might be really suitable on here. And again, if we pop into one of these company cards, this again looks very, very similar to what you saw on contacts there. So you've got your basic information on the left-hand side. Again, you can customize this to whatever you need to see for a company. You've got your associated records on the right-hand side. So with contacts, you'll only ever get one associated company. But when you go into companies, you will get all of their contacts listed here. So you can actually see if maybe two salespeople are talking to two different contacts, maybe there's a contact that's an influencer, maybe there's a contact that's a buyer, going back to what Dan was saying, they're about those decision-making units. All of that's going to appear on your company cards, and you're going to be able to see that all in one clear view. And again, your timeline would be in the middle here. So if there had been any activity with General Finance Centre over time, or with any of the contacts, all of that information is going to be pulled into this company activity here. Does that all make sense to everybody? Move you back again. Yeah, any questions on that? Good. Okay. So aside from the CRM section, the other two sections that I want to just quickly overview here are the marketing and the sales. So the marketing hub is actually what your marketing teams are going to be using within HubSpot. And you can do myriad of things within HubSpot, normally do within other platforms. So Dan spoke there, I think, about MailChimp and about SurveyMonkey and a lot about email marketing as well. So within HubSpot, you've actually got the option to integrate all of those other platforms or run all of those campaigns and those different services from within HubSpot. So you can create all of your ads. So if you're running Google ads or you're running LinkedIn ads, you can create and manage those directly within HubSpot. You can also manage all of your social accounts through HubSpot as well. So this is brilliant for connecting LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can connect them all to HubSpot. You can see them all in one place. You create all of your marketing calendars and your social post calendars from here. Create the posts and monitor their activity, all from within HubSpot as well. So it saves a lot of time, particularly for our clients that we're working with, that were previously going into all of those individual platforms and then maybe going into Google Analytics as well to try and work out whether those social platforms were working. You just do all of that through HubSpot once you get onto the marketing hub. Your emails, again, you can do all of those, create those through HubSpot. Very similar to MailChimp in usage. So if you're using that already, this will look very familiar to you. Very much drag and drop. but you can also use personalization tokens to make sure that you're personalizing your emails there as well. And you can create landing pages. So if you say you use your you're running your website through WordPress or something, but you want to create some really quick landing pages and effective landing pages for some of your maybe your social campaigns and click-throughs, you can do all of that within HubSpot as well. So that's very quickly on the Marketing Hub. And then in sales, this is where it all comes together. So a lot of people use marketing tools to create their emails and their social posts and things, but then sales don't have access to all of that collateral, and they don't know really what's happened. As Dan was saying, you know, I love that term that he used, the colouring in department. I've worked in sales for quite a while, and it's really difficult sometimes to actually know what sales have been doing and what collateral is available to you as a salesperson. So within the Sales Hub, there's actually something called documents, and I'm just going to bring you into here just to show you what these are. So within the document repository within HubSpot is where you can keep all of that collateral that's going to bring those two teams together. So you can create separate folders for different types of collateral. And in here you can see we've got marketing collateral here, which if I click through is going to include those lead magnets that Dan was talking about. So here in particular, this is an ebook. And this is available for the marketing team to use, but it's also available for the sales team to use. So if they think they're talking to somebody that they want to really quickly send out a little bit of extra content to, and want to be able to engage them a little bit more in what marketing are doing, they can do that straight from the documents section, which is really, really helpful for keeping that kind of consistency and keeping that engagement going. And then the other thing here is the sales collateral. So a lot of the time, what happens is once leads are passed from marketing to sales, sales then take control of those communications. And sometimes, again, having worked in sales, you can be too focused on churning out outreach and trying to connect with leads that you're not really thinking about what you're providing them with. And sometimes those sales messages aren't really in line with the great work that marketing has already done to bring in those leads. So within sales collateral, this is where you can actually you can add in other documents that are going to help, and they're all going to be branded exactly the same as all your marketing messages. They're going to be along the same branding guidelines, so they're going to be in your brand's tone of voice as well. And they're going to make it so much easier for the salespeople just to continue that conversation in the way that the lead has already become accustomed to through your marketing messages. It also makes it really, really quick. So it makes it your sales team so much more productive when they've got this kind of stuff here as well. So helps on your side for the company for the productivity. It also helps on that customer journey that Dan was talking about there before, and making sure that you're keeping people engaged all the way through. So I had some questions over the break, and I know Dan talked about it as well, about thinking about automation and how you would use automation at different stages of the funnel. And I am going to come on into that into a minute, but I think what I'd like to talk about first, if I just pop back into my contacts list, is thinking about where people actually are in that funnel and how you segment them in HubSpot so that you know what type of content you're going to be delivering them at what time. And something that's really useful within HubSpot, and something that we found with our clients they're not necessarily using most effectively, are these two stages here. So the life cycle stage and the lead status. So these aren't interchangeable, and a lot of people seem to think that, or a lot of people mistakenly think that they can use them in the same way. But when you think about your customer's journey with you as a company, they very often start off in marketing. So they might have come into a form, or they've seen your website or something like that. Then they're passed on to sales, and that experience changes slightly. And then maybe they come back to marketing for that post-sale experience. And really, you need to make sure that you know where they are at all times through both that marketing and that sales journey. And that's what these two stages, the life cycle stage and the lead stage, do. So I don't actually have a deck because I'm much more of a, I like to draw on whiteboards and things, and I like flowcharts. So what I'm going to do is show you a little flowchart that explains how these two segmentations and these stages actually work and where your customers should be at each point. Can I just get a little hands up that everyone can now see that on my screen? Perfect. Thank you very much, Liz. Okay, so if we think about your marketing stages and your marketing lifecycle stages, within HubSpot, they are automatically set to these, I want to say 8 different stages. And we actually find that this is pretty similar for all businesses, whichever industry you're in, whoever you're targeting, the lifecycle stage for marketing is, they tend to be the same across all sectors. So just to explain very quickly what these are, your subscribers up the top are those people that may have visited your website and signed up for a newsletter. At this point in their journey, you don't know a lot about them at all. You don't know if they're your target customers. They could even be, you know, from the competition. You don't know what their intent is or where they are in their decision to actually buy a product or a service. So they're great. It's great that you've got them in your CRM, and you should have them in your CRM, but they're currently not really ready for you to do anything else with. You've then got a lead status. Now, this is slightly different to subscriber in that they've probably taken some action here. Maybe they've filled in a general inquiry form. Maybe they've clicked through on a social post. But again, you really don't know much about them at this point, and you don't know whether they're actually ready to be engaged, whether they want more from you. It's still quite a cold lead at this point. This is when it starts to get a bit more exciting and a bit more where both marketing and sales can get involved. So you've got your marketing qualified leads and your sales qualified leads. That's entirely down to each individual company as to what qualifies your contacts as a marketing qualified lead or a sales qualified lead. A lot of the time with marketing, it's down to things like website visits, so how many times they've visited your website, whether they've downloaded some content and how many pieces of content they've downloaded, or it might be something like they've asked for something really specific. So with a software company that we work with, for example, someone becomes a marketing qualified lead when they've actually gone through to the website and they've requested a demo. That's a really strong signal that they are now ready to talk to somebody in sales. With a sales qualified lead, these people might not have ever interacted with any marketing at all. They might not have even been aware of the company, but these are people that sales have identified as being an ideal target customer for you. So they might have been at an event or something like that, or a networking, and they've identified this person. Now, when we get to these points, this is when we start to bring in these lead statuses as well. So lead statuses are for sales to understand where those qualified leads are sitting within their sales cycle. So as you can see from here, marketing qualified leads will go into new. At this point, HubSpot will be able to notify the sales team that there's a new lead ready. And they will get that lead, sorry, there's a fly, they will get that lead come through via email and on HubSpot, and they'll then be able to go into that, that contact card, and they'll be able to see what's happened previously. So they'll be able to see why they've become a marketing qualified lead. And then when they take that over, then they'll move it into open and they'll say, yeah, I've taken this, I'm going to run with it, and I'm going to do the next part of this cycle. With sales qualified leads, obviously they'll go straight into open because this sales team have done that. And then from that point, it very much goes, the contact then moves into the sales cycle and moves over to this lead status for the sales team to do their job and to work through contacting them, opening the deal, making sure that they're progressing them through that sales cycle, giving them everything they need, and ultimately to close the deal. It's when we get down to these next parts, we then have to go back and we have to think again about how marketing are going to be talking to these now customers after they've become closed won within HubSpot. Now, again, this will all be automated. So once your deal stage reaches closed won and your lead status changes to closed won, marketing will get an email or a notification to say, right, these guys are now customers. We need to start working with them to pull them through to this evangelist stage, because that's where you want everybody to be eventually. You want your customers to start becoming those referrers and those real advocates for your brand, so that ultimately they can start feeding that top of that funnel again. So close one will go back into customer. There's one anomaly at the bottom here, which is bad timing. Now that could be on either side, to be honest. You could have some bad timing because maybe marketing have qualified a lead, but actually you've got no capacity within your business to deal with it right now. That's a lovely situation to be in, but you don't want to lose that lead later on down the line. You still want to go back to them at some point. And the other thing is, maybe marketing have qualified a lead, but when sales have spoken to them, they're not quite ready yet. Maybe they've got, finance issues, or they've got internal issues that they need to deal with before they're ready to actually progress in the sales funnel. At that point, they should then be fed back into this opportunity life cycle stage. And that's where, as I just mentioned, your nurture funnels are going to come back in. So with nurture funnels, this is all about, as Dan was saying, your automation of marketing collateral that goes out to people that you want to engage with, but for one reason or another, you're not ready to pass them on to a sales team yet, or they're not ready to speak to a sales team yet. So we do this with a lot of our clients, and what I want to show you next, if I can, bear with. Sorry. Yeah. Is how we would actually build that out. So this is a nurture funnel that we've built out for the client who had a lot of marketing collateral, but what they weren't doing is actually pulling people through that first stage of the funnel. They weren't, when these people were downloading one piece of content, they weren't then reaching out to them again and saying, actually, I think you're really going to like this next piece. So through HubSpot, we put all of the content into HubSpot, made sure all of the emails were ready and built out. And then using workflows, we were able to thank them, first of all, for downloading the asset. And then after 7 days, send them the next one. And then after another 7 days, send them the next one. So we weren't waiting for them to go back to our website and download that next piece of content. We weren't waiting for them to see it when we put it out on social media. We were actually saying to them, we want you to download this now, and we think you're going to be interested in it. So that's one side of pulling them through the funnel. But then we go off in different branches as well. Because if after this 7-day delay, they immediately downloaded that white paper, we wanted to send them something else really, really quickly. So we didn't even wait. We just kept sending them content. And what that does is mean that everybody can get moved through to the marketing qualified leads much, much faster. And that for your sales team is brilliant, because it means when they get to this point here, where they're being told to follow up, this person has downloaded 4 or 5 pieces of content within maybe the space of a week, 10 days. So they're heavily, heavily engaged. And that helps your sales team to move them through the sales cycle much quicker, to keep them engaged. It makes people feel special as well. It makes your prospects and your contacts feel like, actually, you're being really valuable to me. You're providing me with all this content I need right at the point when I need it. But this can also work. This type of nurture funnel can also work if you had a lead that's got that bad timing as well. So if you know that you can't, you haven't got capacity within your sales team to move people through the funnel yet, or you know that you haven't got capacity to actually fulfill the work yet, but you want to keep those leads warm, you can actually set up a bit of a longer funnel and a longer sales cycle workflow here. So maybe this would be a month, but it just keeps you included and keeps those contacts up to date with what you guys are doing, with any new products or services that you're bringing out, Any industry details that you can provide insight on as well. That's really great for building trust with potential leads. So any valuable information that you can give them, you can build it into a workflow like this and time it out across how however you would want to do that with them. Is that all making sense? Is there any questions at this point? All good? Thank you. Okay. So just popping back into HubSpot now and having another look at these this contact list that we've got. So we've talked about segmenting your list and making sure that you've got them in the right place for where they are in their journey with the customer, with your company, using the life cycle and the lead stages. The next thing I want to come on to on this list is the persona of your contacts. So thinking back to what Dan was saying just before the break about thinking about your decision-making unit, thinking about the people within the companies that you're trying to target and what their role is in, excuse me, what their role is in either influencing or buying your products and services. So you can actually tag your contacts within HubSpot as one of those personas. And that's not just about thinking about the demographics, but it's actually thinking about that story and thinking about how these personas interact outside of work and how they use, particularly how they use online platforms and the behaviours there, and how you can then use that to influence how you communicate with them. So if we just look there at Connie, she's been tagged up either by the marketing team themselves or again by automation as a Marketing Mary persona, which is a great name. And I'm just going to show you how you can build your personas in HubSpot and what kind of information you should be putting into those as well. So you can find your personas through the settings. I've just opened it up here just for a bit of ease. And when you go into build your personas, you're going to be brought onto this page here. And you can add as many personas as you want. So as many people as you think are involved in that buying process within your target companies, create a persona for all of them. Try and be really specific in your personas as well. I've worked with some companies that have tried to create a lot of personas, but actually they have a lot of overlap. And that can mean that you're actually sending them not only the wrong marketing material, but sometimes you're sending them two pieces of marketing material that's very, very similar because the system's identifying them as being two different personas when actually they're pretty similar. So you want to make sure that you're keeping them really, really specific to that that role within the DMU. And if we have a look here at, so you can see, sorry, I've got two here. I've got a Marketing Mary and a Crafty Cameron. You can call them whatever you want to. It's just good to make sure that you name them something that your teams know what they mean, basically. So if we go into Marketing Mary and just have a look at the information that we've included here for them. And this will all be built out by your marketing teams as part of that kind of first piece of work that you do about identifying your audiences. And you can see in here, and again, this is visible to both sales and marketing. So marketing can learn about what the personas are as well, and they can actually influence and refine these personas with the marketing team because they've got access to them at all times. Just having a look here at the kind of information that we build out on the personas when we put them in. Obviously, you've got your name and then your description, and this is where you want to put in where your where they sit within that DMU. So our Marketing Marys tend to be marketing heads of marketing within their companies, and they are strong influencers. So they're not likely to be the buyer. They might not even be the end user of whichever product or service that we're providing, but they're going to be the ones that are doing all the research, and they're going to be the ones that have got the ear of those buyers. So they are strong influencers in this case. Then got the opportunity to put in some roles. So that could be their job description and the role that they take within their company. Try not to have this as being too broad. So if your Marketing Mary is a marketing head, she's likely to be a head of marketing, a marketing director, or a marketing manager. You probably wouldn't expect a marketing exec to be within this persona. They'd probably be in a slightly different persona. They'd probably still be an influencer, but potentially not a strong influencer. You can fill in your goals. So not your goals, sorry, Mary's goals. So what's she trying to achieve within her role? What does she potentially look for products and services to help her with within her job? So at this point, Mary's actually trying to look for processes that make marketing more efficient and more profitable for her business. She tries to keep ahead of trends. She wants to be ahead of the competition in terms of how she markets her own products and services. You can add in her challenges. This is really good, for, particularly for sales teams and for when you're creating your marketing messages. Make sure that you're speaking to the pain points of your personas. So understand what their challenges are. So Mary, in this instance, she's got a very small team with high workload, so she has to do a lot of research and planning herself. So that means she probably is looking for tools and solutions that are going to help her to maximize her efficiency. And you can speak to that pain point and the solutions that your product brings to that when you're doing your marketing to her or when you're doing your sales messaging to her. You've got some very general demographics here, which are helpful as well. And then you've got Mary's story. Now, this is the bit where you need to build out exactly what Mary is like. Well, this one hasn't actually got into that much detail, but you can really go wild on these, and you can talk about, you know, what they do with how many dogs they've got and all of that kind of thing if you want to. But some of the key points in here is that Mary's passionate about her job. She spends her free time reading up on new trends, and she's prolific on LinkedIn and Instagram. That kind of behavioural information within your persona is so helpful for understanding what you're going to deliver your contacts in terms of marketing content and where you're going to deliver it to them. There is no point putting out messaging directed at Marketing Mary on TikTok, because she's not there, she's not using it. So you'd be wasting your content, if you like, putting that somewhere like TikTok, when we know that Mary's already very active on LinkedIn and Instagram. And she's also likes to share industry related news and thought leadership pieces. That's really good to know who of your personas is actually going to be potentially going to be one of your advocates going forward, because they're already sharing other news, they're sharing product related things on their social accounts. So in time, you might be able to leverage that behavioural aspect and that that personality trait in them. You can leverage that going forward as well for your own company. So that's a little bit about how you build up personas. So again, let's just jump back into HubSpot, and we're going to have a look now at one particular contact. Well, have a look at one particular contact and just have a look at how all of these things have been brought together to bring them through their journey with the company and then into the sales process as well. If we jump into Connie here, who we've been looking at, and we've seen her persona as well. So when we come into Connie's record card, as I said, you've got all of her contact details down here. And you can see here as well that she's a marketing qualified lead and that she's Marketing Mary. Now, the reason that she's become a marketing qualified lead, we can tell because we can see down the bottom here, she's been heavily active on the website. And here in the center, we can see that she's downloaded an ebook. She's filled in a white paper form, so she's asked for white papers, and we can actually see what content she's been consuming on the website. So again, really, really useful information for your sales team to have all of that right here in the activity feed. These are also clickable. So if the sales team, weren't familiar with the pieces of content that Connie has been digesting, and they want to read up on that before they actually reach out to her, so they've got those kind of talking points for her, they can do all that from here as well. So in this case, you can see from the activity feed that the sales rep here, it's me, has actually reached straight out to Connie, talked to her about her business, talked to her about these marketing pieces that she's already engaged with and what she thought about them, and then she sent the follow-up. So she sent the follow-up through HubSpot, and this is the follow-up that was sent. Now you can see within here that if you remember back to the documents repository that we were looking at, this salesperson here has been able to just pull in those documents straight into the email, excuse me, to elevate the follow-up that they've sent and keep all of those things really, really tight, as I was saying before, in terms of making sure that they're keeping all of the messaging the same and they're providing the right sort of collateral. They're not going off and having to find it all themselves. So again, really great for productivity and really great for just keeping that engagement going. But if for any reason this salesperson wasn't able or didn't want to reach out to Connie straight away on the telephone, there's also the option within here to send a first outreach email. And what you can do is, because we know here, because we know that Connie is a marketing Mary, we can actually use the templates functionality within the emails. Let me show you that. To create a template that's already set up to talk to Marketing Mary. So these are templates that can be created by the marketing team and then saved into HubSpot, and they're just accessed here through the templates button. And you can set up as many as you like, depending on which hub you're with. So you can actually set one up as a first outreach for every single persona if you wanted to. And when the marketing team goes to do that outreach, they can just, sales team goes to do that outreach, they can simply click on the template they want to use. That automatically populates within their email. It's set up with personalization tokens, so they don't even have to go in and put in the contact's name. That will all be brought in for them. It's also set up with all of the branding and the signatures as well, so they don't need to do any of that. And this automatically populates the email for the sales team to just edit as they see necessary. So here they can just put in the content piece that they know Connie's downloaded because it's in that activity section. They can add in the next piece of content. So if, for example, they downloaded the white paper, now they want to show them the ebook, they can just pop back into the documents, the marketing collateral, add that in, and it just goes in as a link. Really simple, and really helps to just boost that positivity again and keep everything on track. And then, because we know she's a marketing Mary, because this is set up directly for her, these templates will also do things that sometimes salespeople do forget to do or don't have time to do, which is make sure that you're asking them to go to those places that you already know that they're using prolifically. So link them through to your LinkedIn profile, link them through to your Instagram page, and give them the options to then go and investigate a little bit more. And that's really going to help your salespeople to guide through that funnel then. Okay. So I think that's all I wanted to show you on this part. And I'm just going to move on and show you some post-sale workflows now. Has anyone got any questions at this point about anything I've just discussed? I don't know whether that's good or bad, but I love it. Okay, so finally, I'm just going to show you, actually, got two things I just want to show you, and I think we've got about 10 minutes left. So Dan spoke a lot about post-sale, and what we do once Connie changes her lead status from connected to, once we go all the way down to close one customer, what do we then do? What does the marketing team then need to do to make sure that they keep her engaged and take her through to that evangelist lifecycle stage that is our ultimate goal for everybody? So you do that up here in workflows. And I'm going to show you, I think it was actually the one that Dan was talking about with the workflow earlier. This is one we've actually done for a client who, post-sale, they wanted to keep involved and they wanted to reach out periodically to gain feedback, but also to look for things like cross-sell opportunities. Because ultimately, you may sell one product or service, but going forward, there's going to be other things that either you might start doing or things that you've always done, and that just takes a while for people to want to get there to them. So cross-sell opportunities as well. So this is the workflow. And this is all completely automated using those fields. So lifecycle stage has been changed to customer. The system will delay it a day and then send a feedback email. Again, these emails are all within HubSpot. Once they're created, they're here and they can be sent out to everybody using those personalization tokens so that the marketing team don't have to touch them again. The feedback email goes out, we wait another period of time, and then we send out another little marketing email just to say, how are you getting on? How are you enjoying the product? Is everything okay for you? We leave it a little bit longer. And if the client replies, then maybe you need to pass that back to a sales rep or a customer service team. But if not, you can just carry on down this process. You can send them little emails, making sure everything's all right over a period of time. And what you can also do in here is just make sure that at some point you're sending them a feedback survey as well. So I'm not sure if this one's actually got it in there, but over time you would also want to put in a feedback survey, which you can create through HubSpot, through the service hub, or you can use something like SurveyMonkey that Dan was talking about. They all integrate as well. So that's how you would use post-sale these workflows, just to make sure that you keep on engaging. And all of this information will carry on pulling through into the activity feed of the contact, and you can set up extra workflows off the back of this as well to start maybe re-engaging in a sales process, again, if you want to. So very final thing from me is to have a look at the dashboards that are integrated into HubSpot as well, because as Dan mentioned right at the beginning, I think very often it's a case of marketing are doing all of this work and they're turning out all this lovely collateral. Sales are doing all of this really hard work in engaging with the client, but how are the two coming together? That's what this is all about. How are those two things and all of that work that you're doing marrying up? And that's where your dashboards come in. So there's a variety of dashboards that you can use, and I think there's about 250 standard reports within HubSpot that you can pull data from different data points. For the purposes of this, for sales and marketing, I'd urge that you probably want to look at something like lead generation. So because everything's connected, you can actually look at where your leads are coming in from and how that's relating into revenue over time. So this pillar page on the website, you can see from here that this is actually creating a lot of interest, a lot of leads, and pulling in revenue at the end of the day. And that's what you want to do. So you want to look at that piece of filler content that you're using on your website and say, how can we emulate this elsewhere? Because that's really working for us. Conversely, if you look at something like the services page, that's not bringing in anything. So maybe that's an opportunity for the marketing and the website team to have a look and go, okay, what do we need to do here to enhance these pages? Just further down, you can break that down even more into actually how many contacts were created each day, and could you then relate that back to if you sent out some social posts and how that's all being brought together as well. And then the other dashboard that's worth mentioning as well is attributions. So this is where you can see not just where your traffic's coming from and how they found your website, which is obviously what marketers do all the time, but then look at where that traffic's come from and how that piece of content or that piece of marketing, so down here you've got email marketing, paid search, how those pieces are at the end of the day transferring into revenue for your company. So again, on this, your organic search is doing really well, and that's great. But from a marketing point of view, your email marketing is working really, really well, but your social media isn't really generating anything at the moment. So maybe your social media is where you need to be putting a little bit more time and effort into, or maybe you just think, actually, our target market don't don't actually engage with us on social media. Maybe we shouldn't be putting any effort into there, or less effort into there. So I'm really conscious of time, and I've kind of waffled on there for about 45 minutes. Has that covered everything that we had in the questions, or is there anything anyone wants to ask at this point? Otherwise, I'm going to hand it back over to Dan and say thank you very much. Okay, well, thank you very much. If there is anything, any questions that anyone's got kind of after the session, please talk to me separately, or drop a note in the chat now, and we'll make a note to give you a call back. And as I say, we will be doing more of these HubSpot sessions as well, to kind of delve a bit deeper into account-based marketing particularly. But that's me for today. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Bex. Yeah, so folks, thank you ever so much for joining. Obviously, it's quite a lengthy session, and there's a lot to take in, but in a really positive way. Yeah, and Liz, as you're saying, you know, Liz has just popped a message in the chat using the free version at the moment. Good to know what is possible when you upgrade. That's the other thing, because there's so many different kind of versions, starting from that base level kind of free version, and for some brands that totally meets the need, and then for others they go, well, actually I'm ready to take this up another level, and then there's the different kind of versions and things as well. But I think what's key from today is just looking at those nuggets as well, those little bits and bobs that will sit with you and your business in terms of where you're at, because sometimes with a lot of this stuff it can feel like, you know, where do I begin? How do I do it all? And that's totally understandable as well. But it's about looking at those small pieces. You know, which bit of my funnel is the most lacking? Is it pre or post? How can I better align marketing and sales? What is taking up more of my time that automation would help with? So I think broadly speaking, it's there's so much opportunity for you as businesses to kind of take away a lot of these elements from today and start to make some really positive change, because yeah, this is where it's going, folks. Good high quality automation and the right message to the right people at the right time. Fab. So Bex will follow up with communications. You'll get the deck. You'll also get access to a video recording of today's webinar. There'll also be information in there for future sessions as well, so that you'll be able to see what's coming next. We're also doing little marketing updates at the end of each quarter, where you'll be able to get some access to kind of really exciting on the ground stuff in terms of what you and your business should be looking out for, and changes in that marketplace. But in the meantime, there's some really lovely messages coming through on the chat and privately as well. So I'm really glad that it was a benefit. Do reach out to us on LinkedIn if we're not connected already. But otherwise, I wish you all the very best. I hope you have a great rest of the day, a good end to the week, and enjoy what should be a relatively sunny weekend. Thanks ever so much. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.